So you've been working on a new image, you finally share it online, and then a few hours later you check it out and you just think, what on earth was I thinking with that edit? Don't worry, I've definitely been there, but there's a few things now that I apply into my workflow to avoid having that problem come up. So let's take a look. All right, the first thing that we're going to talk about is what I kind of call the 3 passes technique, and this is something you can apply to your workflow today. And essentially this is referring to the amount of times that you edit the image. So just like a painter with a brush building up layers on a canvas, this is the same way that I like to approach my raw files. So my first pass over deals with the big adjustments to dynamic range, color, and shaping light. This gets the image looking from flat to dynamic, and essentially pretty much does about 80% of the job in one sitting, and this can just take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So now for the second pass over, I like to give it a few days in between, so I'm coming back with fresh eyes. And what I generally find with this is that I'm happy with the results, but I just need to do a little bit more. Maybe it's more color, going a little bit brighter, and then specifically working with an adjustment brush, doing local adjustments to create depth and separation through the image, essentially just manipulating dark and light, contrast, and the dynamic range. By the end of this second pass, I'm getting in that ballpark of feeling like the image is more or less done, but I know from experience that it's not done. And this is where years back I may have said, all right, this is done, and shared it online, but we need to wait for the third pass. So the final pass over will either result in me being stoked on the image and thinking that it's more or less complete, or the complete opposite, where I just think, you know what, this is absolute garbage, and I end up deleting the file. Sometimes I'll make a few minor little tweaks, or sometimes none at all, but generally this third pass over is that real fine tuning and just looking at it a little bit more objectively. All right, so that's the 3 passes complete, but now we move on to the final stage, which is the marination stage. We need to let this file marinate. Now this process is going to vary for everyone. You could give it a day, you could give it a week, you could give it a month, but what this essentially is doing now is leaving that file basically in a drafts folder. And what you'll do is every few days or whenever you like, you're going to open it up and just look at it objectively, look at it from a distance, take it in, and just give it time. And you want to be able to revisit that file a handful of times. And if you can do that and still be stoked on the image and you don't feel like anything's bugging you, finally the image is complete. You know it's done. If you're opening the file up and you're looking at it and something's not right, go ahead and fix it. If it's jumping out at you and it's blatantly obvious, jump in and make that adjustment. And this will happen to me half the time I do this. I'll open it up and I'll think, you know what, it's a little bit too dark there, or maybe the color's a bit strong, whatever it is. The other thing that could happen though is that you might open the file up in the marination process. You think, you know what, something's not right. Typically what's going to happen here, this may not have to do with the processing itself. It could be referring to a few other factors. So I've got something that I call the 4 pillars of landscape photography, and these pillars are your location or subject matter, your composition, your light, and then your post-processing. So it's these 4 things together which I feel are what essentially constitutes a great image, and all of them need to be equally holding up the weight of an image. This is what's good about the marination phase, is you're looking at it objectively, you're letting time go on, so you're removing that emotional connection to the piece. And this is where you can really look at it and say, you know what, maybe that subject matter just wasn't that good. Is that really very interesting? Is someone else going to find that interesting? Or maybe it's your composition. The subject matter could have been great, but this gives you a chance to analyze the composition and say, you know what, I really stuffed that one up. I should have been tilting a little further down or a little bit further to the left, or whatever it could be. It might even be the light. And this is a hard one because we don't have much control over that. But maybe you lined up the right location, the right composition, the processing was good, but the light just let you down. And in that case, if you can, you might want to revisit the location. Otherwise, you might have to really get a bit radical on the processing, or just admit defeat altogether. Or lastly, maybe it is the processing after all. You've looked at it multiple times and you think, you know what, I could approach this in a completely different way. And if that's the case, for me personally, I rather just delete the initial edit and then start again. All right, so there we go. If you start doing this in your workflow, I can just about guarantee that the work you share and whatever you put in your portfolio, you can back 100%, and you're not going to change your mind in a week or a month's time. So to summarize, do 3 passes over on your edit at least. Give it time to marinate, so you're removing the emotion and you're looking at the image more objectively. And then if you need to analyze the other aspects of the photograph, if you still aren't happy, and maybe it could be something to do with those other pillars that I mentioned. So I hope that helps you out. I'll see you in the next video.